Hey there guys, how are you today, and welcome to my preview of the 2017 Malaysian Grand Prix. This will be the final ever Malaysian Grand Prix as far as we know. They're not going to be going there from 2018 onwards, so the final Malaysian Grand Prix. And now let's get into a preview. So, the 2016 Malaysian Grand Prix had huge consequences for that World Championship. Of course, Nico Rosberg was struggling in that Grand Prix. But then Hamilton had an engine failure, and the famous "oh no, no" on the team radio, which obviously, and that really benefited Rosberg, helped him get more points over Hamilton, and helped him to win the 2016 championship. And then Ricciardo led home Red Bull 1-2 in the 2016 Malaysian Grand Prix after some pretty close racing with his teammate Max Verstappen. So yeah, I guess obviously the main question is, will the 2017 Malaysian Grand Prix have a big influence on this year's World Championship? We know the Singapore Grand Prix possibly did, but will that happen again in Malaysia? I think the most exciting thing to talk about going into the Grand Prix is there's a lot of forecasts again for rain, so it could be yet another wet race. We've had monsoons and stuff in Malaysia before, such as in 2009 where there was a red flag, and they actually only did half the Grand Prix that year. Could there be rain? There'll be safety cars. Anyone can win. But now let's get into the preview. So, Mercedes. Of course, this is sort of one of their home races, because remember, it is Mercedes AMG Petronas, or whatever they're called, and Petronas is Malaysian based, and Malaysian Petronas Towers near the circuit as well in Kuala Lumpur. So yeah, Mercedes will consider this, at least for their sponsors, one of their home races. And Lewis Hamilton has promised that his win in Singapore, which was a surprise win, let's be honest, I didn't expect it, and his lead in the championship won't impact his mental state, mental thinking going into this Grand Prix, and he's focusing on getting back the win that he essentially lost because of engine failure at the Malaysian Grand Prix last season. He currently leads the World Championship by 28 points, and his aim will be to extend it this weekend, and I reckon he'll be able to do that. While Valtteri Bottas knows he won't be allowed to beat Hamilton this weekend. I think Hamilton has to be now the number one driver at Mercedes. I don't think it's debatable anymore. And he'll want to show better pace than he did in Singapore, where he seemed to struggle a bit. He couldn't really keep up with his teammate Lewis Hamilton, although he did get onto the podium as well. And Bottas has said it to the media. His aim is second place in the championship, so to overhaul Sebastian Vettel. I knew that would be pretty special for Mercedes to have the drivers finishing 1 and 2 for what would it be, the fourth year in a row. Yes, fourth year in a row. That would be pretty special for Mercedes, and Bottas will be continuing with his aim this weekend. Now, as for Ferrari, of course, lots of media attention on them after the crash in Singapore on lap 1. And yes, of course, they want to improve from Singapore. And obviously, Vettel is 28 points behind in the Drivers' Championship. But he does know how to do a comeback. He came back in 2010 and 2012, only a few races left. And of course, he did lose a lot of respect in Singapore following the crash, where I think the consensus is that it was his fault. But, Vettel has won quite a few times in Malaysia. He won here in 2010, 2013, and for Ferrari in 2015, which was quite a shock victory as well. So, it's not quite, I don't think the championship is over yet. And Vettel, if he's going to do a comeback, he'll have to start it this weekend. Now, as for Raikonnen, he says he's still confident about Ferrari's chances. But obviously, we know he will be backing up Vettel this weekend and for the rest of the season. But fans are really supporting him at the moment. I think we all sort of feel sorry for him. He's been pretty unlucky in recent races, including in Singapore, where he made a mighty start. Let's be honest, and he could have got into the lead of that race, potentially won it. So yeah, I think all the fans want him to do well and want him to have a strong race in Malaysia. Now, as for the Red Bull team, of course, the long straights are bad for the car, but the low speed corners are very good. And I reckon they can be in the fight for the podium, although I think that's the best they can hope for. Unless something crazy happens this weekend, I can't see Red Bull winning this Grand Prix. But Daniel Ricciardo won this race last season. Yes, I know they got lucky. There was a lap 1 crash with Rosberg and Vettel, I believe. And this isn't really Red Bull circuit. So yes, they were lucky last year, maybe, but they won. He won. So you'd be hoping to repeat it this year, or at least get onto the podium. And I guess the same as with Verstappen. Of course, he is so angry with Vettel following Singapore, and I think he's claimed that Vettel hasn't even managed to apologise yet to Max Verstappen. So yeah, which I think is pretty disgusting. And again, Verstappen will be aiming for a podium, but you know, he's had such bad luck for the season. It almost wouldn't be surprised if he had yet another DNF. Now, as for the Force India team, they got a new downforce upgrade this weekend. It's being reported widely anyway. And of course, the big question is, will it have a big effect? And then of course, Sergio Perez has a new extended contract, which was announced at the Singapore Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago. And you know, with a big chance of rain in Malaysia, he'll be hoping it can benefit him, and maybe there'll be repeat of the 2012 Grand Prix. And if you don't know what happened in the 2012 Malaysian Grand Prix, come back tomorrow to my channel, where I'll talk about what happened in that Malaysian Grand Prix in 2012. So yeah, Perez will be hoping for a repeat of that. You'll see when I talk about it. Now, and obviously Ocon is becoming also very popular within the paddock. He is widely tipped, I think, as a Hamilton replacement when Hamilton eventually leaves Mercedes, or potentially leaves F1 as a whole. And I guess we'll want to score more good points at this Malaysian Grand Prix. Now, as for the Williams team, I think Stroll has been doing fantastically recently and want to keep it up. But one of the biggest discussions in F1 at the moment is the fight for the other Williams seat. Massa's definitely in a dogfight for this one. I would say Kubica could get it, the rest could get it. Obviously Massa could keep it, and possibly Jolyon Palmer. And yes, of course, a good Grand Prix for Massa would help him out here. But I can see possibly maybe Kubica getting it next season. That's maybe what I want more than what I think will happen. But I think that would be a good story for F1. So maybe Kubica will be in the Williams team next season. So yes, tell me who you think is going to get the Williams seat. So you can say Kubica, Kvyat, Massa, Di Resta, or Jolyon Palmer, or anyone else. Tell me in the comments. Now, as for Toro Rosso, well, Sainz clearly isn't getting his early move to Renault. We know he's on loan there next season, but there were some hopes that he'd be able to move there for the rest of the season too. But Palmer isn't budging at Renault, so that's not happening. And yeah, well, Sainz got his best ever result at the Singapore Grand Prix, P4, and he'll want to keep it up here at the Malaysian Grand Prix. While the big news from Toro Rosso is that Daniel Kvyat is out of the car for this race and possibly some upcoming races, and he is being replaced by Pierre Gasley. Pierre Gasley from Northern France, and he is the 2016 GP2 champion, so it's now called Formula 2. It's like a junior category, just in case you don't know. So yeah, how will Gasley do? And what next for Daniel Kvyat? Does he have a future maybe at Williams, or I don't know, at Sauber? Tell me. Now, as for Renault, of course, you know, Hulkenberg had lots of bad luck in Singapore, and I guess he'll be hoping for a turnaround in his fortune, so I don't think he'll be in the fight for the podium or anything this weekend. While Palmer got his first ever F1 points at the Malaysian Grand Prix last season, and he got points at the recent Singapore Grand Prix, so obviously he's fighting to keep his place in Formula 1, and points mean prizes, and the prize is a seat in F1 next season, so yeah, points is the way for him to do that. As for the Haas team, they're of course in a very close fight in the midfield in the constructors, and yeah, both drivers will be hoping for a good result this weekend. You know, they did struggle in the Singapore Grand Prix, but they'll hope for your better fortune in Malaysia. As for McLaren, of course, the hot weather and long straights, it's going to be the same old story, isn't it? They're going to struggle this weekend, I reckon. I don't think this is going to be fair chance. Alonso missed a chance for big points when he was taken out in Singapore. And yeah, I can see McLaren really struggling this weekend. Sorry to any McLaren fans, including myself, to be honest. Finally, Sauber, they're still a back market team. You're obviously hoping for better things next season. They're starting from scratch for the 2018 car. Charles Leclerc, another young driver, will be doing FP1, free practice one, for the team this weekend. And I guess any rain could help Verstappen or Ericsson get points this weekend. You can't tell. So let's see how that goes. And I want to know, of all the young drivers like Giovinazzi, Leclerc, Gasley, maybe you can put Van Dorn in there as well. Who do you think is the best? Tell me in the comments. I'm not gonna say my opinion because I'm not 100% sure. Now, to add some actual predictions, I'm gonna go for Hamilton to get pole and the win. I can see him being very fired up this weekend, and I think this could be one of those weekends where he, dominates the field. P2, I'm going to put Vettel. P3, Daniel Ricciardo, to yet another podium for him. P4, Bottas. P5, Verstappen, if he can finish the race. P6, Kimi Raikonnen. P7, Sainz. P8, Hulkenberg. P9, Ocon. And P10, I'm going to say a point on his F1 debut, Pierre Gasley. So yes, tell me in the comments anything you want to say about my preview. Make sure you look out for the video tomorrow. And I'll see you guys when I do the review of this Grand Prix next week. Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you really enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this and other types of videos, please subscribe to my channel. If you have anything to say in the comments, please leave a comment in the comment section down below. Also, go and check out the video that should be on screen right now, and come and follow me on Twitter, BigGaming342, and Facebook, BigGaming342, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Goodbye.